Once upon a time, long, long ago, in an age steeped in sorrow and grief, the world was a place of fear and heavy hearts. Dark clouds hung low across the heavens, and the thunder rolled like a threat from the heights above. People lived in shadow, barefoot, shivering, broken, while kings stole their last earthly possessions, and the holy men blessed the theft. Laughter was counted a sin. Joy was a forgotten tale. It was a time when not even the boldest dared to dream a dream. Yet in those cruel days, when every hope had almost faded away, a whisper began to stir, not written in books nor carved in stone, but carried from parents to children, from the old to the young, like a cradle song that the wind in secret bore along. They say a girl came out of the storm, on a single ray of light that touched the earth at the breaking of dawn. No one knew her name, only that she danced, and where she danced, sorrow melted away. They called her the Girl Harlequin. The legend tells that the heavens were still on that morning. No bird took wing, no breeze stirred the trees. The world held its breath, as though it awaited something greater than time and thought. Then, high above, a gateway of golden light opened. Not glaring, not hot, but warm as a sun remembering the summer after a long winter's sleep. The light poured over the land, gilding hills and meadows, and wrapping the world in gentle silence. And from the light stepped a girl. Barefoot she came, light as dew in the dawn, with hair like chestnut vines carried by the wind. A mask adorned her face, not of iron, not of gold, but of joy, as though sewn by an angel's hand. Her gown was a costume of colors, a patchwork of dreams, stitched together by the stars in the dark of night. She did not speak, not with words. She only smiled, and turned like a flower leaning toward the wind. Wherever she stepped, the earth awakened. The grass bowed before her as to an old friend. Delicate flowers, long hidden, raised their heads and opened their petals. Even the brook, silent from sorrow, found its voice again and sang with a silver tongue. The land all around was in bloom, bewitchingly fair. Fields of clover, poppies, buttercups. Green hills lined with ancient trees. A sky painted with light and hope. And they tell that the girl Harlequin wandered, light as a petal in the play of the wind, humming a song that no ear had ever heard, yet every heart had known since the dawn of time. All at once, beneath a fern, soft and green, two curious eyes blinked up at her. A little rabbit, no larger than her hand, with fur that mingled dusk and dawn. He watched her dance, then took a timid step. She paused, and as their eyes met, a name drifted into her thoughts, like a breath upon the wind. Pimple. She understood, and she smiled. He climbed into her open hand, and together they spun through the meadow, laughing like children in the sunlight. Gently, she cradled him in her arms. This strange and wondrous creature, with whiskers like threads of moonlight. He nestled against her, purring like the wind in tall grass, and without a word they knew. They belonged to one another. They wandered, side by side, beneath arches of sun-dappled branches, where butterflies danced like living blossoms, and birds sang songs that even the trees seemed to heed. Harlequin whirled for joy, her laughter soft and smooth as wind chimes in the summer air. Pimple hummed along, hopping at every step by her feet. He leapt through flowers, circled her legs, and flew into her pirouettes, until he, too, was caught in the enchantment of her dance. The world shimmered. Rabbits paused in their nibbling. Foxes blinked from the tall grass. Even the clouds, once heavy and grey, withdrew in awe, so the sun might kiss the land in full. A deer stepped forth, gentle-eyed and still. Harlequin reached out her open hands, and it came closer, trusting, resting its head in her palm as if they had always known one another. And so they danced, the three of them, a girl, Master Hare, and a golden deer, as though joy itself had taken shape and walked upon the earth. And wherever they passed, desolation faded, and the land breathed again. For that moment, nothing mattered but the dance, the warmth of the sun, and the breath of the earth beneath their feet. And where they danced, sorrow forgot itself. And the world remembered, for one fleeting, perfect moment, what joy feels like. One day, not far from the old mill, a band of children wandered through the meadow, where reeds swayed and willow branches touched the brook. No voice called them home. The sun warmed their cheeks, and soft mud clung to their bare feet. The youngest boy stopped. His eyes grew wide. "There," he whispered, "look." And she was there. A girl in a gown woven with diamond patterns, barefoot, radiant, still as a dream. At her side leapt a strange little creature, its fur a weave of dusk and dawn, its ears like folded silk, its eyes alight with hidden stars. Pimple. He spun through the clover, leapt over stones, and chased his own delight around her skirts. The children stared. The air itself had changed. Even the wind fell silent, and the trees held their breath. It was not a hush of fear, but something from another world, tender and soft. The sadness they carried, without knowing it, slipped away like dark smoke on the wind. They gazed at the girl Harlequin in silence, like pilgrims before a saint. A little girl clutched her brother's hand. "She is not from here," she whispered. "She comes from a gentler place," he murmured back. Another said softly, "She looks like love, not the kind from old legends, but the kind you feel when someone truly sees you." Still they stood, breathing as little as they dared, for fear of breaking the moment. Then Harlequin turned. Her eyes, bright beneath the mask, met theirs, and she smiled, like a hearth in winter, like bread after hunger, like a name spoken again after long silence. The magic did not break. It deepened. Pimple twitched his ears, bounded to the children, and hopped lightly as if to say, "It is all right. Come closer." And they did. One boy bowed, though he had never bowed before. Another offered her a dull, worthless stone, which, in that moment, became a garnet. A girl knelt before Harlequin, not from command, but from the longing in her heart. No child spoke of going home. No one asked her name. They knew, with that deep knowing only children possess, that they would stay with her. At her feet lay a small bird, one wing broken, breath no more than a sigh. The children drew close, their eyes wide. Harlequin knelt, lifted the frail creature gently in her hands, and whispered to it, softly, in a language none had heard before. Then she kissed it. In a heartbeat, the wings stirred. In a blink, it rose into the air and flew away. The children cheered as if the sunlight had kissed them in the heart, for they had seen a miracle. Yet greater than her magic was the feeling she left behind, a golden warmth, like sunlight through leaves on bare skin. Their fears fell away like autumn leaves, and for the first time in many moons they laughed, not because they were told to, but because joy had taken root in their hearts. An older girl said, "It was as if we stood in the middle of a song made of love, and wished never to step out again." As if led by an unseen thread, the children followed her, through the wood, past the willow pond, to a sunlit meadow where flowers bent in greeting. There, under the open sky, she turned, once, twice, again, and as her feet kissed the earth, a melody rose, though no flute or fiddle could be seen. The children clapped in time, a boy began to hum, a girl spun, laughing. Soon the whole meadow was alive with dance and song. Some swore flowers sprang up wherever Harlequin's feet touched the ground. Others said the sky grew brighter, as if it wished to listen. But none denied the truth. What each child carried forever in their hearts was the feeling of that moment, that happiness is no treasure to be chased, but a song to be shared. And as Harlequin danced with arms outstretched, the children sang with her, not with words, but with unburdened hearts. Even now, when the wind moves through the tall grass, one can hear her laughter, fleeting as a distant dream. The meadow became her little theatre, her refuge. No stage, no script, only joy dancing over skin and hair. Music seemed to rise from the wind itself. No flute, no drum, no hurdy-gurdy, only a graceful sound, like sunlight made audible. Her feet stamped the rhythm, her laughter carried the melody. And the girl Harlequin danced as if the world had been waiting for this moment alone. Some say they danced until the stars stood in the sky. Others say time itself stood still. But all agree it was the day the children forgot their sorrow and remembered only the light and the love. And so Harlequin wandered, not alone, but trailed by a ripple of laughter. Small feet, curious hearts, following joy as flowers follow the sun. They passed through fields where the wind was warm and the sky stretched like a lullaby. Bees hummed in the heather and dandelions danced in the breath of the earth. Pimple hopped at her side, sometimes ahead, sometimes between the children, his fur glimmering faintly as though he had swallowed a piece of morning light. The children sang songs their grandmothers once sang and forgot they had ever been sad. Even the birds drew near, perching low as if to listen. And in the quiet between two steps, one could feel the world remembering what it was to be kind and glad. The path curved gently, and the hills closed around them like old hands, green, wise, and full of peace. Then, only a few steps from the smoke and stone of the village, they found him, a man broken as the road on which he lay, clothes in tatters, skin marked by wounds. From his chest came no breath, only deep, raw pain. He lay curled like a forgotten garment, half covered in dust, as though the earth had tried to hide him. Flies buzzed about. A crow sat silent on a fence post. The children clung to one another and whispered, "He is cursed. He brings death." But Harlequin feared no death. She stepped forward, slow, silent, like the light that wakes the morning. She knelt beside him, brushed the matted hair from his face as if he were her only beloved. The man-opened eyes burned with tears and looked at her. Then she kissed him, not from fear, not from pity, but with love. Pure, endless love. And in that kiss, his wounds turned to light, his rags to fine raiment, and his pockets grew heavy with gold and hope. The man wept again, but not from pain. The children stood silent, as if witnessing a holy tale. Even Pimple stilled, sitting with ears bowed in wonder. The man rose, taller than he had ever stood. He looked at his hands, then at Harlequin, and bowed. But the girl, Harlequin, and the children walked on. The journey was not yet done. They went past blooming orchards, murmuring streams, through a land that grew softer and richer under their steps. The children did not ask where the road might end. They knew only that they must follow her. At last, the rooftops came into view. Chimney smoke curled into the sky, and the village gates stood still in the golden light of noon. And there, at the edge of stone and law, Harlequin stopped. The wind gathered around her. Pimple pressed close to her ankles. The children waited, uncertain in heart, yet unable to slow their steps. At last they stepped into the village square. No trumpets, no fanfare, only bare feet on broken stone. The villagers sat in silence, hollow-eyed, bent beneath the weight of their days. A mother nursed a child, but hunger had left her with no milk. An old man carved nothing into a block of wood, his gaze far away. The air was heavy with the smell of smoke and sorrow. And then a cry. A woman kneeling in the dust held a baby, limp, pale, still. People turned away. None dared to look, none dared to feel. But the girl Harlequin stepped forward. She knelt beside the mother, laid her hand on the child's chest. Her fingers began to glow, soft as the first light of dawn. Beside her, Pimple let his ears droop in quiet watch. Suddenly, a breath, a twitch, a cry, sharp and unexpected. The baby lived again. The mother gasped, then broke into tears. Not from pain, but from the pure joy of holding her beloved child alive in her arms. A hush of wonder fell over the square. Then, hoofbeats, a shout, the well. They ran to the old stone ring, dry for years. The girl, Harlequin, leaned over the edge. A shimmer slipped from her hand down into the dark shaft. A moment later, a sound, a trickle, a rush, a silver stream like living light burst from the depths. The children danced, the villagers stared in awe. And still, the girl Harlequin moved on. At the churchyard's edge, she paused before a heap of broken stones. She bent, touched one. When a small boy picked it up, it had become bread. Warm, golden brown, enough to feed a hungry heart. The people came closer, closer than before. They no longer whispered. They no longer looked away. Something had returned. Not only water, not only bread, but hope. Discord and fear grow fastest in shadow. Behind shutters, in hushed corners, poisoned whispers spun their net of doubt. "She is no saint," they murmured. "She calls on demons." That smile, not from God. They had been taught that joy was the devil's mask, that happiness was a trap for the soul. "Beware of cheer," the bishop warned, "for it dances with sin and the devil himself." Mistrust spread like rot in old wood. Eyes turned from the miracles and saw only danger in the light of the girl Harlequin. The whispers reached the bishop's ear, and the iron heart of the sheriff. "Witchcraft," they said, "a temptress of the devil." No trial, no questions, only orders. "Bring her here," said the sheriff. "Seize her," commanded the bishop. And the hunt began. The sheriff's guards swept through the streets like a storm. Iron boots on cobblestones, swords rattling against their armor. Doors slammed open. Screams broke from startled mouths. "Where is she?" they cried. "Where is the girl who dances with demons?" No answer was safe. No silence forgiven. An old man lost his bread for holding his tongue. A young mother wept as her child was dragged from hiding. Then, a voice, trembling with fear. "She is not here. She's outside, in the fields, with the children." The captain's eyes narrowed. A nod. The troop turned. To the gates, to the fields, to her. Steel spirits in steel shells, they moved like hunting dogs on the scent. No one asked why, no one doubted. They were no longer men, but tools of fear, sent to take what must not exist, what the powerful would not allow. And so they marched, with iron hearts and closed mouths, out toward the fields. She was there, where the wild flowers bloom. On a meadow, kissed by sunlight, she danced, as though sorrow had never touched this world. Birds sang her name in trills and whistles. Butterflies circled her like flying ribbons. A young deer stood at the forest's edge, watching her with gentle, wide eyes. Wherever her feet touched the earth, flowers awoke as if longing for her. Even the sky seemed to hold its breath. But as the old tales warn, where joy blooms brightest, shadows often creep near. She did not see the storm clouds beyond the hills. She did not hear the iron march of terror drawing closer with every step. She knew only love. She knew only joy. So she danced, unaware, while the world around her quietly changed. For happiness, no matter how pure, cannot keep sorrow away. And innocence, no matter how fair, is no shield. The guards came with iron and command. They seized her, and Harmony wept. "You have bewitched this land with trickery and lies. You heal without prayer. You summon without priest. This is no gift of God, but a bargain with the devil, only cleansing fire can free your soul from evil. You wake the dead without prayer. You call beauty from nothing. This is no heavenly gift. It is the devil's deceit, and only fire can cleanse such evil. And so they took her away. They brought her back in chains through crooked streets where shutters slammed and whispers crept like smoke. In the square, the crowd boiled with rage. "Witch!" they cried. "Burn the devil's whore! Save us from the demons!" Rotten fruit struck her shoulders. Someone spat. Someone laughed with scorn. The girl, Harlequin, said nothing. She looked to the ground as if trying to understand how love could turn to hate. And in that storm of pure hatred, only the children wept. They reached for her, but the guards held them back. A boy cried her name and was dragged away. She gave only a gentle smile. Not defiant, not afraid, but quiet, full of love, as if to say, "Do not weep, do not fear, all will be well." At the stake, the ropes were bound tight. Then, robed in black and purple, the bishop climbed to her side. He raised a silver cross, his voice thundering over the square. "Children of God, behold the serpent in silk, the devil's harlot, this girl, this creature, that dances with flowers, that heals without prayer, that wakes the dead, that poisons your hearts with joy." He turned to her, eyes cold as ice. "Speak now, witch, confess your pact with the devil. Let holy fire cleanse your heart. Admit your sins, and perhaps heaven will have mercy on your soul." The guards stepped forward, torches spitting sparks. The bishop descended, keeping his distance, his robe trailing like a vulture's wing. The guard gave a nod. Then, flame touched the wood. Dry twigs hissed. Fire curled upward, twining around Harlequin's legs like hungry snakes. The heat shimmered. The crowd roared louder, a choir of madness. But Harlequin did not scream. She did not even flinch. Just as the fire touched her gown, a strange wind swept across the square. Torches flickered. A light, golden, pure, unearthly, fell from the sky and wrapped the girl Harlequin in its glow. And she vanished. No cry, no ash, only empty ropes swaying in the smoke. The crowd froze. Then the bishop found his voice. He raised his cross and cried, "Be not deceived. What you saw was sorcery, the devil himself reclaiming his servant." The sheriff, pale and trembling, shouted, "Yes, an unholy spectacle. The witch is gone, but her curse remains. Go home, bar your doors, pray for deliverance." But the people stayed silent, for they had felt something deeper than fear, a warmth like grace, like love, settling in their souls. One by one, hands lowered, stones dropped, eyes turned down, tears fell. A woman pressed tomato-stained fingers to her lips. A blacksmith stared at his hands. They knew now they had tried to burn a blessing. And the fire, still crackling, bore witness to the miracle no one would ever again deny. A light descended, soft as breath, bright as the first morning. And in another time, in another world, on a street of glass and stone, the girl Harlequin danced again. The sky was high, noise was everywhere. People hurried with lowered heads, eyes empty, hearts full of nothing. Her mask still rested on her face. Her hair moved in the city's smog. She turned just for a moment and smiled. Not at someone, at you. Perhaps you have met her once, or perhaps you will, someday. For Harlequin is not gone. She dances and sings wherever joy is needed, where sorrow has stayed too long, where a hand must be held without asking why. And if the world ever grows too dark, look twice at the one who smiles where no one else does. It may be the girl Harlequin. For, as the old tales teach us, those who dance in love are scorned by those in fearful darkness. Yet love will triumph. Even in the blackest time, a light may step barefoot into the world and teach us all to love again.